What's up? We are on the live. We don't, Clay.
Sorry.
Clay's telling me to hit record. We don't hit record on this yet because we let people get on here for just a minute.
This is the exclusive watch party.
Exclusive watch party.
Only the coolest of cats.
Yeah. So come on
this.
for a few minutes, and obviously, if you have questions before, during, or after, we're always monitoring the stream and Instagram and social media pages and all that good stuff. If you're watching, you can see we've got 2 new cool signs, and we got another guest on the end of the podcast. This is Chancellor. We'll talk about him plenty in a minute.
I didn't know your last name was Chancellor. That's fantastic.
That's like a rap name.
Chancellor, Chancellor.
Yep.
Chancellor, yep. And who is also the owner of Chancellor.com.
Yes, exactly. The one and only.
I'll never forget you
By
telling
chance.
us about that.
Oh, my God. Everyone hates sending me an email because I have to spell it. Like, I remember I was at the U-Haul place moving. I was like, Chancellor.com. I'm like, what? No, there's 3 of them. Like, this was a horrible idea. Why did I do this? I need a different domain name.
But nobody was buying Chancellor.com.
No, I snatched that thing up.
Honestly, I might have to take a play out of that playbook because I think that's just straight baller status.
Yeah.
I
I would never think to have done that, but
well,
Chance did.
You kind of do because,
Yeah.
I mean,
You got a professional
you've got the
domain.
Copeland creative domain.
Yeah, but I don't have CalebCopeland.com.
You better go get it right now. Someone's going to buy that.
and then charge you like $1,500.
Yeah, charge it. Well,
They're going
somebody
to beat you at your own game because you do that.
So somebody took Chuck Belmore. And now I was like, why is your username at Belmore Chuck? He's like, because some SOB took Chuck Belmore and tried to just extort me out of $1,500 for it. I'm like, you know who I am? I'm literally
not a man who will pay you $1,500 for a
Exactly.
We do
username.
outdoor television. We don't have the budget for
Yeah,
that.
he's like, this guy is stretching it, trying to get my username,
So-
thinking I'm going to pay for it.
I've been watching The Sopranos,
Yeah,
and Chuck if there was a country version of The Sopranos, Chuck
Okay.
would number 1 be.
all right. Here's the problem with everything you just said. Of all the movies and all the series we've talked about, you went and watched The Sopranos?
Thought it was good.
It is good. 15, 20 years ago.
Isn't that a
You
soap
just
opera?
dated yourself.
Can I get back to my
All
reference?
No,
like
it's-
15-year-old
I-
millennials just turned
As
us
soon
off
as
right
you
now.
said I watched The Sopranos, I stopped listening,
Isn't
and
it
so
a-
did everyone else.
Isn't it a soap opera?
No, it's
Well-
about the Italian mafia.
Clay.
It's a good show, but
Is it?
Do you have the list of movies that I sent you handy anywhere?
The one I lied about?
Yeah, the one you
No.
lied about.
No,
Well, we're talking about movies later, so I guess you can just leave the room when we do that.
that's fair.
just set your headset
You
down.
can just kindly GTFO.
Like, this is the time that you can just exit the podcast.
Just give me the sign, and I'll just.
Clay,
Just hit Twitter.
Clay,
we,
you,
we do have to give Clay credit, though.
for what?
He's trying to finesse us a Chick-fil-A sponsorship
Oh,
with that
yeah.
logo placement.
Yeah, he is.
So I worked in legal, so I will go ahead and handle this for you. Chick-fil-A does not and in no way endorses this podcast. If we had the technology, that would be blurred right now. But we're working off of a 4-channel mix.
This is going to be a good one.
Do you remember the time they were trying to sing Happy Birthday during the
yeah.
show? And I went up there and yelled, it's like, no, it's copyrighted. No, don't do it. Don't sing it.
And in Disney, anything Disney in the
Oh,
background, or it's just
you wanna
live
get-
sports. Yeah,
Oh, you want to get sued.
yeah,
Play a Disney song.
yeah, 100%. Okay, we are going to roll into the podcast now.
The Redneck Tech Podcast is brought to you by Mike'sArchery.com. They're a one-stop shop for virtually everything archery, bow hunting, and for your next outdoor adventure. Mike's Archery has been at the top of the archery game for over 50 years, and they want to give listeners of the Redneck Tech Podcast 10% off their entire online store using the code REDNECK10, all one word. Just put the code in before you check out, and your boys will hook you up. The guys at Mike's have always been good to us, and now they can be good to you too. Visit Mike'sArchery.com and get your gear now.
Right here. Yeah. You want him? Yeah. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is going to be episode 127, and if you're watching on the live, you can tell that we have 2 brand new signs. we also have a brand new sponsor we're going to talk about in a minute. But more importantly, we have Chancellor here. And we're going to get into a lot of this, but Chance is like one of my favorite people of all time. And I'm glad that he had the time to come up and hang out this weekend. He is graciously helping us with some stuff that is way over my head. He's a technical genius. And we're going to get into how much I've learned from him in the podcast in a minute. But if you heard, we actually have an official sponsor of the podcast, Mike's Archery, that Ryer didn't even plan. Wore the shirt again because he loves the shirt. But
Yeah, definitely didn't plan.
we're not gonna talk about it a ton. But so Travis and Brian from Mike's Archery came up to the production class last year. I've known Travis for a long time, just through production and things like that, and they're just great people. Had a great time. Really got to know them, and they gave us a bunch of shirts and hats and stuff. Well, Clay and Ryer wear them all the time, and we wore them on the last podcast. And they called us and like, "Hey,
If you want people to wear your stuff, make the shirts
exactly. If
comfortable.
you want people to wear your stuff, make the shirts comfortable." Great adage to that because that is 100% true. But even better than that, they sell all kinds of cool stuff that align with everybody who listens to the podcast. They're like, "Hey, if you, anybody on your podcast wants 10% off, tell them to use the code Redneck10, all one word, and we will we'll hook them up." And we're like, "Sounds good to us." So if you need anything for archery or for hunting or tree stands, they sell so much more stuff than archery stuff.
Camping stuff.
Yeah, camping stuff. We've been trying to go through the website the last couple of days, and I bought stuff from Mike's a long time ago. But it's just a really cool little piece that we were excited to be a part of, and obviously Ryer's excited to be a part of it. But really cool to have Chance here. So I could intro Chance, but I'm going to let him do it. I can't do it justice. So Chance, who are you and what are you doing here?
Oh, so I worked with Caleb a while back at Sub 7.
Yep.
And I guess that's coming up on like 4 years now.
Yeah, ago. We were worked together for just over 5 years, but that's been 4 years since we worked like side by side every day.
Yep.
So that was, I mean, heck, it's been 9 years. I mean, I've known you for 9 years or so. Yeah.
Yep. And you said the first time you showed up and there was a shoot we were on, you looked at me, you're like, "Oh, that's the nerd. He must be the guy that runs a bunch of this stuff."
and I was right.
Yep. And so that was the production manager at Sub 7, and so just kind of oversaw post production. Occasionally, they let me go in the field. That's when they knew that times are really tough. They're really scrounging to send me out there. But I had a lot of fun working at every production company. Even if you're in the outdoor space, needs an office nerd that knows how the computers actually run.
That is so freaking true. And I stumble through it most of the time. And I tell people all the time when I come up with some stroke of technical genius, it's usually something that you showed me along the way. And I'm like, and I 100% take credit for it. I don't give you any credit. So it's
I mean, that's the Redneck Tech podcast.
Exactly,
Here we are.
exactly right. So, I mean, we're trying to live up to our name, but that's kind of what I wanted to get into is Chance and I worked together for 5 years, known him for 9 years, and learned a ton from him. And there's only one guy like Chance. We'd have to do a series of podcasts to tell all the stories that we got into back in the day, but we had a really good time. Ryder's got a decent chance of it, or a decent taste of it today, where we've reminisced a couple times. But just fun to have you back up here and hanging out.
Absolutely.
Just like old times. But the job that you had at Sub 7, that was one that it's unique to the outdoor space because at the time, well, really, I guess still, there's not really very many productions that were big enough to essentially have somebody that played your role, I guess.
Right.
Because if you don't understand what it is to run, when I left, we were doing 7 television shows and the Under Armour short film series. So essentially 8 major projects.
Yep.
We do now 1 major project, which is Hunt Masters. And that is all us 3 can do, except for, all our side, smaller projects and the other small clients. It's everything that we can do.
Yep.
And then we had, when we were there, you were managing 8.
Yeah. And
that is, I don't think people understand all the hats that you have to wear to do that.
Right. And so I, would basically, wrangle all the data. So, we generated, I think we figured out somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe 90 terabytes of data a year, which is a lot. For those of y'all at home that don't know.
Yeah.
That's what, like 7,000 phones worth of data?
You can do the math. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And because you don't realize that you're shooting a gig a minute. So a gigabyte a minute, pretty much every time you roll the camera, that's what you're shooting. And that's other cameras, you're shooting maybe 10 gigs a minute, like more than that. It just goes up from there.
Exponentially.
Yep. A gig's, light. And so I'd do that. And then just kind of, when it got into post, just kind of, I'd edit some shows. There were much better editors than me.
Same here, buddy.
There. But it was my job to make sure they could stay editing because they were good at it. So the paperwork, the sponsor requirements, all that sort of stuff, to keep that out of their hands.
Well, and essentially what you helped the most on is, when I edited shows and my meager ability, which is still, we would generally get the shows to, 80 or 90%, and then we'd put them on your desk, and you would get them ready to air. And that's, you think that, all he's going to do is color and audio and put them in a template. Is so much more, like, as we're learning right now, getting shows ready for Hunt Masters, because I haven't done Outdoor Channel shows since then. So 4 years ago, I've done Sportsman's Channel and Pursuit Channel since then, but the requirements have changed, and they change every year.
Yep. And you look at the Outdoor Channel, sent the requirements over, and it's a stack of paper that thick.
Yeah.
A quarter.
I think it's 36 pages.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was one of those things where we would hand the shows a chance happily, and then he would take them the rest of the way. So that end of the process, either because usually, just like it is right now, that comes down to when he gets it in his lap, it's usually deadline time anyway, and we either have to move on. We would have to move on to the next one or go out on a shoot, and Chance would make sure things made deadlines, and for the most part, we didn't really ever miss any.
I don't think we ever missed a deadline.
Yeah.
At Sub 7. We came close.
Yeah, very many times. I know there was a lot of long nights, and I wasn't a part of near as many of those as you and Nate were. But you're forgetting that your favorite part of that Sub 7 was the Best Ranger competition.
Oh God, the Best Ranger competition. That was. I think we figured it out that we went. What was it? 70 hours, and I had 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
Through that.
Oh, I'll never forget the first one. I've never seen somebody as stressed about an event as you were.
Oh yeah, because
we honestly we didn't really know what we were doing. It's the first time we'd ever done it.
Well, you don't say that. There were challenges with the technology to get them in the shape we needed to broadcast from a remote location that we did not anticipate.
Yes, and there was a lot of challenges on that shoot, including people saying things off camera, forgetting their audio's on, and then Chance calling or radio and then say, "That's live. Shut up."
Gosh, imagine trying to film a show without explicit language from an army base live.
Yeah,
it is a tough undertaking.
Yes.
While the subjects of that are participating in perhaps one of the most grueling physical challenges they've ever been
while
part of.
we ride in front of them on a golf cart sipping Mai Tais.
Oh God, they hated us so bad.
Oh,
I can't even
I don't
imagine.
blame them at all.
They hated our guts, man. I could tell several stories about those trips. Like, I wasn't in the trenches back at the office with Chance. He was back there at the control center, making sure everything was happening on the technology side. Because still to this day, I would not ever want to take on all the technical stuff he did. It's still over my head. But all we did, we were just grunts in the field, holding cameras, pointing them in the right direction. That's all we did. Stay in focus and make sure the camera's on. We got fresh batteries, and then make sure you get to the next place, which generally we didn't even know where it was.
Oh my God!
And you would pull over and ask somebody, "Hey, where's Darby Field?" And they're like,
Actually, I'm not from
sure.
around here. I just got stationed here last week.
Yeah.
Great.
But the thing, in half of them, there's no map.
No.
And I guess they scramble the locations when you're on base because you can't find anything.
Your GPS doesn't work. Your cell phone doesn't work. You said you got lost, like an MP or something escorted you where you needed to be.
I literally, that was one of the, and I think that was my first full year at Sub 7. It was the first time I felt like I was a failure because I couldn't find the freaking place. And I'm the only camera. I have the camera sitting next to me that's supposed to be recording, and I cannot find this location. And I'm in that golf cart screaming down these long dirt roads in the middle of nowhere on Fort Benning. No idea where I'm going. Nobody's awake. And I finally find it like an hour and a half later, and I tell Chance, I'm like, dude, I'm sorry. He's like, it's cool, dude.
Yeah, and I remember because I think I actually went out in the field, showed up to relieve you, and we didn't anticipate how cold it could get on Fort Benning in mid-April.
Yeah.
And you had squeezed into some baseball pants from
Yeah.
like a decade before
Yeah, dude.
because it was all you had in your truck.
Yeah. It was a rough, dude. It was rough.
How
And
did you have baseball pants
I
from
don't
10 year prior in
don't
your truck?
remember, dude.
they
I
were
don't
there.
remember. But
We're like, Caleb, you look really bad. And you're like,
well,
don't
there's
care, I'm warm.
well, the other time, and the other thing that sticks out about that particular one was that was the first year, and Mark and Pender just miraculously left. And we couldn't figure out where they went.
Oh, God.
They went to call turkeys.
Yeah.
They just went out around Benning calling for turkeys because it's like April and they weren't turkey hunting. So they left to call turkeys, and we're like, where have y'all been? They're like, oh, no, don't worry about it, man. No, don't slide this diaphragm back in my pocket.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Nathan's over there, like at a mortar range, like trying to scream to figure out how much longer we have to go live on this camera.
Yeah.
Like screaming over mortars exploding.
Yeah, dude, it was, we dreaded Best Ranger competition. And, I mean, all we did was hold the camera. Like, he had to plan the whole thing. We were
It
just
was
like,
just-
Chance, tell me where to go.
Yeah, it was just a grueling 72 hours.
Yeah.
And that was grueling for us just trying to film it because you had to be live for about 20 out of 24 hours. I couldn't imagine the guys that had to actually,
Yeah.
like, go through the competition.
Oh, man.
That hats off to them.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that.
No, I couldn't either.
I could barely sit there and watch, stats come through on the server to make sure it's broadcasting
Well,
and
best
not lagging.
in my best shape of my life, I couldn't do it. I wanted to tell a story that I've told. I'm pretty sure I've told on the podcast before. I know I've told Ryer. I don't know if I've told Clay before, but it was my first week when I got hired at Sub 7. First of all, I was not even remotely qualified for that job when I first got hired, not even remotely. And I luckily had to swindle my way, I guess, and Mark gave me an opportunity to come work there, and I got there the first week, and y'all were at SHOT Show.
Oh, I remember this. Yeah.
So I remember the first 4 or 5 days I was there,
No one was there.
no one was there, and nobody left me anything to do.
And you broke something very, very important while you were at the office alone.
I don't remember that.
Caleb breaking things?
Yeah,
What did
Caleb,
I break?
Your
Oh my
office
God.
chair
Oh,
exploded.
yeah, I do remember that. Okay. All right, I was like, what? I don't remember. I do remember breaking the office chair. Okay. But
How did you
So-
break the office chair?
I leaned back in it and it exploded.
Is that why? It makes sense. That's why every time you get in my chair, you
No.
lock the tilt mechanism, so
It's like
you're scared.
flashback.
No.
It's like a PTSD thing.
Well, maybe it is. But anyway, so the first 4 or 5 days, I just kind of twiddled my thumbs because there was nothing to do. And then they got back from SHOT Show, and it was like, Jenny bar the door because there
Yeah.
was all the first quarter shows that were about to be due. And I didn't really know Chance. I'd met him for like probably a couple hours up until then. And it was just a couple of us in the office. Didn't really know anybody. And I'll never forget, I knew how to operate Final Cut 7. This was when we were still on Final
Oh,
Cut.
yeah, those days.
I knew how the program worked, which I thought that's all you had to know to edit, but it was not. And Chance hands me a hard drive. I'll never forget it. And it was one of those, I still have 1 or 2 of them down there. It's the silver,
Western
those
Digital
silver,
MyBook
yeah,
Duos.
yes. And you handed me one of those drives, and it was a Respect the Game show.
Oh, yeah.
And it was 4 hunts from, oh gosh, what's their names? The not Whitetail, yeah. Was it Whitetail Freaks? No, not Whitetail Freaks. Bonnie and Mike McFerrin.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, they had the show Legends of the Fall.
Okay.
So there was 4 hunts there, and you handed me the show. I'll never forget. You walked in my little cubicle office thing there, and you're like, here's a Respect the Game show. There's 4 hunts. There's 4 kills. Make each kill its own segment. Make the segments around 5 minutes.
Yep.
And I'll take over. And I'm like, I can handle that. All right. Well, at this time, I didn't realize that. And now, knowing what I know, that show should have taken me 4 or 5 days to rough. Like, if that. I got that drive, opened it up, got the project started, and started editing. Probably edited on the first segment for at least a week. At least. Way longer than I should have. Super proud of myself. And it was like, I don't know, around 6-ish minutes. Chance, come check this out.
Come take a look.
He comes in my office. I'll never forget this as long as I live. It was one of the most impactful times of my life in this business. Comes in there, watches it through, doesn't say a word. Gets to the end, he's like, it's long. You just need to tighten it up and shorten it up some. And I'm like, okay, roger that. Goes back in his office. I'll probably spend 3 days doing that because I really didn't know how to do that. He comes back in. I call him back in after I've cut probably 20 seconds out of 6 minutes, maybe. And he's like, still long, man. You still got a good bit to trim. And I'm like, okay. He leaves, probably worked on it another 2 or 3 days. He comes in there the third time, and he's like, dude, it still needs to, he's like, you need to, there's some fat that you need to trim, really need to shorten it up. And like after the third time, I'm like, now I'm mad.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I don't know. And it's still at like 5 or like right at 5 minutes. And I was like, that's what he asked for, is 5 minutes. What the heck? And he's like, just let me show you. He sits down at that computer. I'll never forget it as long as I live. And just hacks. I mean, guts everything that I just did. But I watched over his shoulder and he just kind of walked it through. He's like, look, right here, he says the same thing here as he does here. I don't care. Cut this part out. Right here, there's 4 frames at the end of him talking that I don't need. Trim that fat. Here, this B-roll shot, that doesn't matter. Hide this edit, slide this here. And he took that 5 minutes, and I think he cut it down to like 3.5. He cut a full minute and 30 seconds out of a 5-minute segment that I didn't think there was any room to cut.
Yep.
And that light bulb went off in my head is like, okay, now I get it. Now I get what you're considering fat and what you're considering slowing it down. And he showed me how to edit to that beat. He's like, here's your beat.
Yep.
This is off by 3 frames. This one's off by 4 frames. This one's off by 1 frame. Showed me how to get the montages things on beats, how to pick up the pace, and literally in less than an hour, sitting in my office in my second week there. And I'll never forget it. And he left my office, and I just watched it probably 50 times. And I'm like, that's how you cut it down. And from that day on, it was just a progressive improvement on what he had just shown me. And I tried to improve on it, and I'm sure I failed many times. But that one instance of, okay, I just watched somebody that actually knows what the hell they're doing show me what I did not know what I was doing. And because I thought I did, and you showed me I absolutely did not know what I was doing.
Well, and basically what I just kind of showed you was like, once the animal starts coming in, there's a stopwatch that's clicking, and that stopwatch is counting down from about 40 seconds.
Yeah.
And because you really only have one song to get that animal in position for the shot to happen. And so that's 30 to 40 seconds. And then once you have your celebration, there's another stopwatch that's going, and then your recovery, there's a stopwatch going again, and you gotta keep moving it along. And so that's basically just, as you edit, just have a stopwatch counting down.
Well, and that was another thing that I learned too, is the pace at which, the edits have to happen. When I'd edited up until that point, I didn't really edit to music. I laid clips in a timeline over a song, and that was it. There was never not even a style. There was never I don't know what the word I'm looking for. I never edited with a purpose. I didn't have that ebb and flow, the speed up, the slow down, the pace of an edit, and things like that. And then we got into the shooting. Remember, you showed me how to shoot my first night lapse. Yep. You showed me how to set the Moco rig up, which was we all hated.
That thing was way more complicated than it.
Yeah, the move shoot moves thing. Yeah, I hated that thing. And then
that's the thing people don't appreciate. You see like a motion control time lapse at night, and that's a 3 to 5 second clip. Congratulations, that took us about 45 minutes to set up.
Yeah, so 45 minutes to set up, 3 hours to shoot, and an hour to edit.
And then we get it back in, and we look at it, and only about like 3 out of 4 of them actually worked because one of them we got the focus wrong, and the stars are all blurry.
Yeah.
So great.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, but it put in perspective to me what I thought I knew, what I didn't know, and then what it took. Because when I knew who Sub 7 was before I came to work for him, but more importantly, I knew the product that they put out, and I did not appreciate or even understand the level of work and time it took to create those products, and to and all the work that went on behind the scenes that I was completely unaware of, and that really opened my eyes. And then watching Nate work, like, you were talking about, what is he, ADD or ADHD? And it's like, no, like, I've never seen somebody that can literally walk in, put on headphones, sit down, stare at a computer except for walking out for lunch, 8 hours, and go home and do it day in and day out. And Chance said he can't do it. I ain't no way I can do it. I just don't have the attention span, but that's why there's only one Nate Thomas. There's only one person that could, or I'm sure there's others, but this is the only one I know of. But it was cool to watch it. But my favorite thing was I learned more from you and Nate than I ever did on my own. Like, I tell people all the time, I learned more in the first 3 months at Sub 7 than I did in my first 3 years of doing it on my own. Mm-hmm. And that's all because it was from people that knew what they were doing, that had put in the time before I got there, and that were willing to impart that knowledge on me. And that's the whole reason I did this podcast, is because before I got hired at Sub 7, this is all I ever wanted to do. But I say this is all I ever wanted to do. I wanted to work in the outdoor space in hunting shows, because that's what I enjoyed, but I didn't know what that meant. And I learned what that meant when I started working at Sub 7, and I learned so much, and I learned what to do, what not to do, how to save time here, how to, all the things that you do, whether that's shooting in the field, whether that's editing, whether that's production in general. But, and that's why I started the podcast, because there wasn't a resource, unless you worked for a Watermark or a Sub 7 or a Rusted Rooster. Like, unless you worked for somebody like that, there was virtually no knowledge out there.
Right.
And you had to know somebody. Yeah.
Yeah, the one-man bands don't have time to teach you how
to
do it, because they've got to produce and edit and turn a show around.
Well, and I learned, too, that I learned what I was good at and what I was not good at. And what I felt like I was good at, I was good at the people side of things, the hunting side of things, and running the camera. I was okay at editing, but there was, like, graphics, not me. Graphic design, not me. It's like, it's one of those things where I started to learn, okay, here's my lane, here's where I'm going to need help, and here's where I'm clueless. I'm going to have to call somebody, and that was as important as learning what you do know and what you don't know. But that was, I think about that story all the time when I'm going through an edit, and I'll, trim 3 or 4 frames off the end of talking, and how you told me, like,
J&L
edits, all that stuff is like, that's the cornerstone of everything that we did. And I learned it in the first 2 weeks I was there from you, and I wouldn't be here now without, you and Chance in those days. So I really appreciate it. But even more than that, we had a lot of good times. And what I miss a lot is poker and going out to freaking countries to eat lunch, and having Nate hit on the waitresses and stuff to get free food. That was some of my favorite stuff. But good time. We got to get Nate on the podcast too. I was hoping he could come up one weekend and we could get him on there. But life in outdoor TV and content creation. What's kind of your take on it now? Like, because you're still, you're still around it. You're still around right. Nate, and you're around us, and kind of how's it changed for you? In your perspective, I guess.
I guess I'm trying to kind of figure out, because there's been kind of a change in the fact that, it's been going on since in the last 8 years. Suddenly anyone with an iMac can
create content.
Yeah, can create content. And it's not just like, YouTube videos and stuff like that. Like, no, if you've got either a MacBook Pro or iMac and a DSLR, boom, you can film a whole TV series.
Yeah.
And so it's democratized that anyone out there can do it, but that has also brought its own set of challenges for anyone established in the field. Is that there's a lot more competition out there. Like, you want to be on YouTube, good luck getting through everyone else there to make a name for yourself. The same with broadcast TV, because there's a lot more people that can do things.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot tougher out there. Everyone's a lot hungrier than they used to be.
Well, it's getting to the point to where I'm seeing people that I looked up to starting to age out. You know, this has always kind of been a young man's game to where there's only so many times you can run up the hills with a camera, and then it's tough. The editing and the grind of editing gets hard. It's tough. It's not that I've never not enjoyed editing. I enjoy editing things that I shot, but if you hand me footage, I don't enjoy that. That's really hard for me to do. But that's been a challenge for me the whole time. But yeah, I see. I mean, what you're saying with it being competitive and the YouTube series. I mean, that's something that frustrates me that Ryer and I talked about yesterday. Or no, I think I don't remember if it was me and Claire, me and Ryer, talking about how there's several YouTube series out there, especially in the hunting space, that the rawness of it is appealing to people now. There's virtually no production value.
Right, and we'd go out there and spend all kinds of amount of time, effort, to take that rawness out. But that rawness is now a style in and of itself that people like. There's a reason why people edit entire clips for YouTube and stuff on nothing but an iPhone.
Yeah.
And it's infuriating because
Yes.
we have all this equipment,
Yeah.
and then you go out there and someone that edits a 2-minute clip on an iPhone goes, I think it's a million views.
Yeah. Well, and it kind of goes back to what I listened to a podcast that Rogan did with Ranella, and how it's the podcast age. He's like, it's when there's an overproduced, group of writers and producers and planners and button pushers on the backside of a news channel, nobody trusts it.
Yeah.
He's like, but if you have, and he said same thing with a podcast, if you have this overproduced thing of a podcast, he's like, people don't feel it authentic. But if you just get on there and start talking and shooting the crap with your buddies, everybody knows it's genuine. It's not pre-planned. There's not somebody in the corner going, yeah, can't talk about that. It's like, no, yeah, that's good. No, talk, keep that one going.
Or stretch longer. We've got to stall some time until we hit a commercial break.
Yeah, exactly.
That sort
So,
of thing.
and he said, I think, I see that bleeding over into the content we're consuming. I mean, I'll be the first to say I love TikTok. I think it's hilarious. Which I think it's more the personalities than the videos I'm watching. But those are 99% of them are shot on somebody's phone.
Yeah.
And they're under a minute.
And those will get more views.
Oh, my
than
Jesus.
Probably 60% of TV episodes
Oh,
out
yeah.
there
100%.
on broadcast.
Yeah.
Because, and that's the thing, until, and that was something that sponsors would look at. It's like, okay, so you pay and you air, and a show airs on broadcast, and it airs that, well, let's say 3 times. You get 3 airings, and then it's done. Its run's done. Whereas you get a good video up on web, and its views are only going up every month.
TV episodes aren't going viral. All
Yeah.
that
No,
web stuff
it's
can
too
go
long.
viral. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, it's too long. And now you do have streaming platforms where, all these companies are they're putting these TV shows on streaming, but they can't release them for a year because they'll invalidate their cable contracts.
Well, what about the late night? Because most of these people that watch Jimmy Fallon and stuff now, they don't watch him late night. They watch him on YouTube the next day.
They watch that 7-minute monologue clip instead of going and watching, an hour show, or even turning on the TV.
Yeah,
and then
but they're
turning it
getting
off after the monologue.
significantly more views on that stuff than they are on the network.
That's because content has that whole I want it when I want it and I want it now mentality, that's probably one reason why all that super raw, uncut stuff is popular, is because say if one of us kills something and we post it on Instagram, well, people that follow us, they don't want to wait a year to see
Right,
the episode. They want to see it in 3 or 4 days, and if they haven't seen it in 3 or 4 days, they've forgotten about it and they're moving on.
That now, even the web show that we do for Spy Point, the turnaround time's 2 weeks.
Yep.
We shoot a episode, it airs in 2 weeks. That's too long now.
Well, we have to have it given to them in 2 weeks. They're not airing it in 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's due in 2 weeks, but it's like that's too long now.
Yeah.
Now the timeline is, like you said, within 3 days, and for long it's going to be within that day.
And you can't do that for a broadcast. Broadcast, you cannot edit something to the quality that broadcast needs,
Or length.
right? Or length, and then get it quality controlled, get it captioned, and get it uploaded and submitted in 48 hours.
And sponsor compliance.
Oh God, let's not talk about that.
Yep, you can't do it, but you can turn around a 1.5 to 2 minute video on web in 48 hours.
Yeah,
like,
and we've done it, you know. But it's the thing is, where does it? Either what's the happy medium, or what's the? Like, I don't know. Like you were talking about, what was that? The digital language or the digital? You're talking about how, you know.
Yeah. So the same way that a language has, or a group of people have their own grammar, right? English has its own grammar. German has its own grammar. Spanish has its own grammar. You know, if you translate English directly into Spanish, your words are out of order and it doesn't make sense completely in that language. It's odd. And the same goes for media platforms. The movie theater, the TV, Netflix, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, even inside of Instagram, your posts versus your stories versus your Instagram TV, each of those has their own grammar, their own set of basically visual cues and stylistic cues that a viewer expects to see. And that's why when let's say I film something for TV and I put it on YouTube, it feels out of place because on TV, how that was all structured, how I communicate my ideas through the camera and the editing and all of the stylistic choices that I make, it makes sense, and you expect that on TV.
Or in a film, yeah.
Yeah, I take that to YouTube. Now it's odd. It feels too polished. It feels like it's too long. It feels maybe too filmic.
My favorites now that people are putting vertical videos on television with black bars in commercials.
All the commercials, yeah.
Like that just makes me want to cringe.
And it feels odd because you're used to the grammar, the visual grammar of TV, and now you've taken the visual grammar of a phone, or really like an Instagram. Instagram, I think, is really what kind of spurred that vertical format through stories and stuff. You're taking that and you're putting it on TV, and so it's almost like somebody trying to talk to you in English using their Spanish grammar, and so things are out of order, and you're like, I get what you're saying, but it feels funny.
Well, let's
and I don't really want to watch that here. If I wanted that, I would go over here to watch that.
Well, let's take a look at, the classic YouTube thumbnail image that promotes the episode. It's always some crazy guy outlined in a white, like, drop shadow, pointing something crazily at the camera, to be engaging. Instagram, it's always something, when you're scrolling through, very action-oriented, because you have, as someone scrolling through Instagram, you have less than 2 seconds to get their attention, to get them to stop and watch what you're showing. That's the average, and it may have gone down from there. I know for me, that's why you burn in captions into your video on web, because a lot of people aren't going to watch it with the audio turned on. Yeah. Either they're in a public place, they don't want to turn the sound on, or either, who really wants to watch sound on? So you burn in captions to capture people's attention so that they'll stick around and read your lips with captions turned on. So, there is a whole nother thing to be had on how to snag someone's attention less than 2 seconds.
Yeah, and it just
and I think
stresses me out.
I think that one thing is, I don't feel like people pay enough attention to where they're putting things and needing to create content specifically for that platform. You can multi-purpose content, and it's important to, but you may have to translate that content to another platform. You know what I mean? Like you might have, say you do a TV episode. It's very expensive to do a TV episode. You've got a lot of great content.
Contrary to popular belief, it's very expensive to do one correctly.
You got a lot of content there, but you really can't just throw that on Instagram.
Yeah.
So now you have to go and translate it a little bit so that it fits Instagram. And I think there's also a space, like you said, like the question is always like, okay, with all of these shows being more raw, and being more unpolished, as we would say.
Yeah.
Where's the space for content that we would call polished that would fit our quote unquote production standards? I think what you're talking about there is that all the stuff we produce is for TV, and the stuff they're producing is using the grammar for YouTube or Instagram. And I think that at some point there will be a shift, and this type of content will probably go more in the realm of like a Netflix and an Amazon Prime and stuff like that. The hunting industry just really isn't there yet. And so right now, long form content to the level that we're producing it lives on YouTube, and it doesn't perform that well because YouTube isn't a place where people go to find content like ours, or expect to find content like ours. So when it does shift, I think, to something like a Netflix or an Amazon Prime, because like you may not have TV, but you go to Netflix and you anticipate a certain level of production.
Yeah.
You anticipate to watch a 30-minute show, a 1-hour show, 7 1-hour shows in a day.
35 1-hour shows in a row.
And that's what you're anticipating. And so you're like, okay, I know what I'm getting. And so when you're presented that material, it doesn't feel out of place.
Yeah.
And I think that the hunting industry is just behind that curve. And when it gets there, now suddenly our content is going to have a place to live that doesn't feel out of place like it does on YouTube.
Right. And Tubi tried that. I think it was Tubi. What was
that?
Oh,
yeah. How much money did they lose?
Oh, they lost a lot of money.
Yeah.
Was that not Quibi?
It was.
It was Quibi.
It was the one that the vertical platform. Yeah.
Right. So
I remember I sat on Quibi for like 15 seconds. I was like, this is terrible.
Yeah.
I hate this.
Like, I was interested in like Reno 911, but they filmed it where it could be repackaged for 22. Like, they could combine them into like full length episodes.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, that was the whole thing, is that people would go and they'd watch an actual episode sitting on the train or something like that.
Well, people are doing that now on TikTok. So you get a full minute on TikTok, and they're doing like 37 parts to put in the entire episode of something up there.
Well, okay. So here's an interesting thing that I've noticed. I loved Vine. I don't know if any of y'all
I remember when it was there.
I loved Vine. And Vine's thing was 6-second videos.
Yeah.
When they first started, it was pretty much the same kind of flow as TikTok, where you just kind of scroll, and it wasn't like a For You page, but it was similar. But it was about 6-second videos. Then, in order to try to compete with the Instagrams and the Twitters, I think Twitter bought Vine and was like, well, we want Vine to be more viable on the Twitter platform. And so they increased the amount of time to like 15 seconds. And it was okay. And then they're like, okay, we'll give you a minute. And suddenly all these people who are really funny for 6 seconds,
couldn't be funny
in order to try to take advantage of the prioritization that social media's algorithms give to new features, are trying to make 1-minute videos. And suddenly they're not funny.
So you're kind of like Vine. You're good for 6 seconds, and then after that, you just get annoying.
Yeah, pretty much. Exactly.
You can look at, like, you know, the transition that's happened a lot, like the transition from silent film to talkies, where you actually had people speaking on the screen.
Yeah.
And there were silent movie stars that were huge, huge stars, and then they were in their first speaking film, and it bombed at the box office because the voice was not what people were expecting, or they couldn't, like, you know, and voice may have been higher pitched than people anticipated, and that sort of thing.
Well, there's actors now. I watch them in a certain role, and I hate them in that role, and I'll see them in a different one, and I can't even watch it.
Well, just think of now, like, the YouTube stars, and they get a role on Netflix, and you're like, you watch it because you're like, oh, man, I really like this person's content.
Yeah.
Man, I'm so excited for him, and you watch it, and it's just like, that's not for you.
Yeah,
you're really a YouTube person.
Yeah,
you know, it's the same kind of deal.
So, Chance, in your past life of being a production manager, what do you think was the hardest part of it?
I'd say the hardest part was just the, you know, random, you know, there's a lot of balls to juggle up in the air.
Yeah,
and they were varied. Everything from, you know, Best Ranger, we thought we were going to have cell phone service in this area to get a signal out, and No, did not have cell phone service. And then, this hard drive decided to crash hard on us.
Yeah,
the
at
night.
the most perfect time.
It knew the episode was due tomorrow,
Yeah.
and so this
They
hard
know.
drive went down. Yeah, hard. And so they were varied.
It was just the unknown of it. You think?
It was the unknown that, because when you're given such a long time horizon, you think you have plenty of time before
Dude,
something airs.
that's literally what I was about to say.
Yeah, we filmed this in September. It's not due to the network till next June.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. Like, no problem. We'll have this thing out.
Well, that's what I keep
Spoiler
telling.
alert, no.
I keep telling them. I'm like, look, we're getting, we got this, and this to do, and when we get it done, we're gonna have some time before the fall starts. Hadn't happened yet.
Yep.
It never happens, and that's always the goal. Is like, I want to work hard to where we have this week to where we're off this week.
Yeah.
It hadn't happened yet.
And I can complain about this. You can't. So I'll take the liberty of complaining about this. Sponsors. Anyone that is listening to this podcast, and if you are a sponsor, please assign someone in your organization whose job it is 1 month to check in every 2 or 3 months with whatever shows you sponsor, because you're paying them good money. And send them things like your commercial that you want to air during your TV show.
Your updated logo.
Your updated logo in a
High
format,
quality.
Yeah, in a format that doesn't look like Grandma sent it from the 1920s.
Did you scan it on her scanner?
multiple formats for
Yeah.
multiple backgrounds and usages.
Right, like a light colored background and one for a dark colored background that's just transparent and doesn't have black or white burned into it. Because you get logos that you're running up on a deadline where the show is due to get graphics done tomorrow, and you've been trying to get a logo for 2 months, and they send it over to you, and it looks like they faxed it from the 1910s. And so please, your organization is paying great money to promote these very great shows. Help them out and help yourself out by making your organization
Help
and company,
us. Help you.
look as good as possible
How
by
many-
having a great logo and commercial.
How many times did you submit a show that you hadn't gotten that from people, and as soon as it aired, you got a mean phone call from someone?
That happened a lot. And I'd have to point to the barrage of 10 emails that I was sending about every 48 hours saying, we've got a deadline. And then they'd send the logo over and say, okay, will this be in next week's show? No, it will not.
Next
because
week's show's already done.
I have to go and send this off to the graphics guy, which is going to cost us more money, which you are not going to compensate us for.
Yeah.
So he can redo the graphics. I will get that back from him in 3 to 5 days. I will then send that to the network, and I can probably get this change edited in 2, more likely 3 weeks from when you sent that to me. So you just missed 3 airings for your logo because you wouldn't
Answer an
send it
email.
over. Yeah.
Man, these marketing people, and I've said it a million times, they're like catching the Easter bunny. Getting one on the phone or getting one to send to the right stuff, man. We joked about it many times. It's like, whenever one of these days when we hang this up, I want to get a marketing position at one of these companies to see why they suck so bad.
I'm surprised you can say that, but okay.
No, well, most of them do. There's some exceptions to that rule.
Like your amazing sponsors.
Yeah, 100%.
Mike's Archery.
Mike's Archery.
Yeah, yeah, but there are some that are just like, what is it that you do?
Right.
Tell me
Your
what
job's
it
to
is.
market your show.
Yeah,
Tell me all the things.
but there's so much turnover in the market, and I guess that's why.
Well, and companies don't even, to their credit, they don't even know what shows they're sponsoring. You might want to take notice of that because your accounting department's sending them a check.
A large check.
Yeah, and so you might want to actually take notice of what shows you're sponsoring and just be like, hey, I know the quarters changes are, hey, we updated our logo. Could we get our new logo inserted instead of just anticipating
here's my
that
thing.
we're going to know that?
Literally, the assets for a company, you name company XYZ, you say that's like a huge one, like a Matthews or a PSC.
Yeah.
That's a large company in the outdoor space. How many digital assets do they really have that need to go out? A couple variations of the logo, 1 or 2 commercials, maybe a style guide.
Yeah.
Okay, all those files less than 10 gigs.
Oh, easy. Yeah.
They could literally store that in the cloud, send one link, and done.
Yeah.
They could send that link out to here's this to everyone in my list
Right.
every week if they wanted
And just
to.
update the materials on there. So
Yeah.
as a logo goes out, delete the old logo, send out an email to that same list and say, hey guys, we've updated it with this logo and stuff like that. So that way I can always know the same link's going to have the freshest stuff I need. And guess what? As I'm about to update graphics every quarter, I'll go and check that link and see if anything changed.
Yeah.
Well, we have our own platform for uploading shows. Why can't the sponsors just upload all of their stuff there to some type of file format where we can click on a link and have everything?
Because
we
that
ever
takes
needed?
effort, Clay.
Well,
That's the problem. Is it gets it.
there's too many things in too many places.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I agree with that. So what
Well,
was
I know I have friends in low places.
couldn't resist? Could you?
Ha.
So
Ha-ha.
what was your? So that was the hardest part. What was your favorite part?
Favorite part, I got to go to some cool places.
Yeah.
Travel was fun. Got to go to Kenya. That was probably top of the list.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, what did you like about Kenya the most? I don't think I've ever really heard your version of the story.
Oh, so we spent like
I know you. I
2
knew you
weeks
went to Kenya, but
Yeah.
I didn't ever hear the story of this.
yeah. So I mean, it was just really cool to see a lot of animals that have no comparative thing to over here.
Yeah, Africa was really cool when I got to go.
Yep. And so that was really cool. The travel's definitely the perk of it.
Yeah, you still traveling a good bit? Every chance you get, other than COVID?
Yeah, COVID put a damper on everything.
Yeah.
But I've had 5 vacations canceled.
Well, you know,
Nice.
Ryer's vaccinated. So.
Yeah,
So I am now.
Yeah.
Now that
now that
Hawaii
it's
doesn't need it.
Oh, they don't?
no.
No. Literally 4 days. Here, you guys know me. I'm a little bit of a procrastinator.
No.
And I was like,
a little bit.
look, I can't procrastinate this. I need to go do it. And I went and did it early so that I could. So I was done. It was done.
Yeah, so you're
I had like the 2 weeks, so they couldn't even say anything, right?
Yeah.
You just got, because I was thinking, if I got the vaccine like a day before, like, well,
Hasn't
you
taken
could
effect
have
yet.
COVID, whatever. So I get it like last week.
Mm-hmm.
The trip's at the end of the month. 4 days later, you don't need a vaccine. You just need the the negative swab, which you also still need if you have the vaccine.
Yep.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for nothing. But you know what? I did that. I did that for you guys. I did that for Greg. I did that for the state of Hawaii.
And the Yukon later on, because Yukon's going to require it too, if they even open up.
Look, somebody asked me to wear a mask. We're fighting. We're fighting.
You got stuck.
Like, I honestly wish that, so, like, back in the old days, you would get a vaccine and you would get a scar. I want
the polio
the COVID,
vaccine.
yeah, I want the COVID vaccine to give me a scar. So somebody would be like, wear your mask. No.
Yeah.
No.
No. Thanks. Try again.
Wear this. Wear that.
Yeah. How about you wear these hands?
Oh God. Yeah.
I got vaccinated the first day they let fat people do it. So I showed up, and they were like, "What's your pre-existing medical condition?" I was like, "I'm fat." And they were like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, my BMI is over 30. Stick me with a shot." They're like, "We don't have that. Like, we've got the BMI over 30 on our list. We don't. It doesn't say like if you're fat." I was like, "Well, I'm fat. Stick me with a shot."
I didn't know there was just like BMI requirements.
Yeah, well, that was like right as they were like.
Was there
lower.
really?
Yeah. So like, you literally like, do you want to put me on the scale?
I never heard about that.
Yeah, this was.
They were about to not give it to you because you didn't meet
I
the
guess
BMI.
I carry my weight well. I don't know.
So you were under the age.
Yeah, so I was
You weren't
under
in
the
the
age.
You were in the
That's
healthy
body
age
shaming.
range.
Yeah, that's
They body shamed you.
That's
So
age
much
discrimination, and that's wrong. Yeah, and so I just showed up like ready to get it. Boom, day one.
That's funny. I did not know that either.
I had never heard that like they were prioritizing.
Well, I
that
knew
for
they
the-
were prioritizing in the beginning, like elderly and like
Obesity was considered
or
a
essential workers.
comorbidity, and so this didn't happen until like April or something.
I don't know. I didn't know any of this. Anyway, so I guess this is the part of the podcast that Clay can leave. We're
Wait,
going to talk about.
I wanted before we get
Don't
into
tease me like that.
before we get into.
Oh, you got a question
that,
for Chance?
Yeah, because I imagine that you've shepherded a lot of editors along in maybe some of their earlier days. Having had a lot of experience doing that. What are a few actionable tips that
This
you
is
can?
a great question, Ryan.
That's
I'm
very
proud.
good question.
I'm so proud of you.
Gotcha.
I didn't have that question on my list.
Oh, you do?
I don't. No, I do
Oh.
not.
Okay. So
How,
yeah,
what kind of tips would you give people who are really just starting their journey into the wonderful world of editing?
okay. So my first thing would be, if you're thinking about a job in outdoor production, do not look to be in front of the camera. Do not look to film. Like, if you want a job today, learn to be an editor.
Yes,
Because
right now.
that is the bottleneck.
Did you
of
pay him
any-
to say that?
No,
That is
I've
the
said that 10,000
yeah, that's
times.
the bottleneck of any production company.
Here's a conspiracy theory. Sorry, not to interrupt you, but this goes on with Clay. Here's a conspiracy theory I've had. I've been hearing Chance say a lot of things that
Yeah,
you say.
you're
I'm
not.
so-
you're
I
not
told you.
funny
Are
and
these
creative.
all from Chance?
No, not all
Are
of
these
them.
all
A
from
lot
Chance?
of
You're
them.
not
A
as
lot of them.
funny and creative as I actually thought you were.
Okay, I
Tell
told
us the
you.
truth.
Chance taught me a lot.
Yep. And so, learn to be an editor. And really, it comes down to, you don't need a fancy camera. You can start with your phone if you want to, but if you can film on a DSLR, you can film on a big camera.
Film on virtually anything. Yeah.
Yeah, a DSLR introduces you to all the concepts, but go out there and film a few scenes, and then go and watch how a similar scene unfolds on TV, and sit there, watch a few episodes of different series that are, different styles, and sit there, like, take The Crush and Leah Tiffany. Go out there and time how long a scene takes. Okay, we just got to the tree stand. How long are they in the tree stand before the deer comes in? Or how long is Lee in the tree stand before we transition over to Tiffany?
Mm-hmm.
And write down those little times and look at it, and you're going to see some very consistent numbers.
Yeah, and how did they get from Lee to Tiffany?
Right.
What was the couple shots of the transition of the scene that got me
Right.
from this location to this location? And usually it's very simple. It's some either wide establishing shot, or it's a drone
drone.
shot, and you hear, if it was on Lee, you hear a drone shot and you hear Tiffany start talking, we're
Yep.
automatically there. It's one shot got us there.
Yeah, so that would be either a J or L edit, and if you watch Game of Thrones, those are also famous for it, where you hear the audio of the next scene come in under the previous scene. So you might be sitting there, and like you said, Tiffany is in the tree stand, and she's talking, and then it kind of goes to a master wide in the field, and then you hear a car door slam. Well, that doesn't belong in a field, but that's okay, because about half a second later, you see, boom, there's the Lee getting out of the car.
Mm-hmm.
And so that little audio cue just cued you in that a scene change is coming.
It subconsciously told you everything you needed to know.
Right. That, like, oh, that was a car door. Oh, so that way when you see the car, it doesn't seem out of place.
And you don't realize until you start paying attention or have done editing and video as much as we have, those things are in almost every production you watch, if they have any kind of production value whatsoever. Netflix series, Amazon Prime series, hell, cartoons, good ones, animated films, they have all of the same things. Usually the animated films have better sound design than anything.
Animated films are super, super tough, because you watch an animated film, none of that audio exists.
Yeah.
Not a single bit of audio. So I worked. Here's my opportunity to talk about it.
Yeah.
I worked on a
See how I
yeah, so
drove
we
it.
segue into it. So I got to work on an animated film, which was called Sergeant Stubby, an American Hero, and it was the true story of America's most decorated military working dog,
It was Sergeant Stubby,
an American Hero.
Sergeant Stubby, an American Hero.
Yep.
And it's where at right now?
So you can stream it for free on HBO.
Nice.
And it's also available for DVD and Blu-ray purchase on Amazon, Best Buy. all that
OMG,
sort of
have
stuff.
you ever thought about getting ASC behind your name like Ryer has? Oh
No.
my, wow.
I didn't.
Ace. ACE.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah, I was gonna say
ACE.
I didn't know what ASE
Oh,
was.
God.
It's probably like I already have that
Yeah,
7
but-
times.
Now, disclaimer: I did not do any editing of the show, but if you pick up a DVD or Blu-ray disc, I did author that.
Yeah.
So that was my contribution to it. But so yeah, animation is tougher in the audio department, but it's also more freeing, because you're going to cut VO and stuff, so you
Yeah.
can you can just kind of, you don't have to actually get good audio in the field, because this is one thing, people will forgive bad video. If you're watching a video on TV, people will forgive bad video. You will not forgive bad audio. If someone's talking and you can't hear them because the audio's too low, or there's noise too scratchy, or the music mix is too loud, you will not pay attention. And that happens in major videos. How many of you saw let's see, was it Dark Knight Rises with Bane? And the first mix you saw in theaters, the people that saw it in the first 4 or 5 days, the audio mix was bad. You could not hear Bane because he whispered so much. And so Christopher Nolan had to release a new audio mix for the movie.
I did not know that.
Yep, after it had been in theaters for like 7 or 10 days. So just because if you saw it after a couple weeks, you saw a different audio mix.
Did not know that.
Yep. And thanks to digital production, you can switch that out. If it had gone to print like that, they would have had to order new prints. It would have been a disaster.
Yeah.
Or they made 1 million DVDs or Blu-rays of it. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, then your mistake is pressed in for the entire public to see for all eternity.
So, perfect segue into what, now that you've, that we haven't, because we used to always talk about movies and shows and things we used to watch. What have you got into lately? Or I say lately, I know you're working all the time now, but what are you into lately?
Yeah, so let's see, I'm trying to think the last thing.
You haven't watched Yellowstone, which you need to. You haven't watched Mindhunter, which you need to.
Like the last series I feel like I watched on TV was Umbrella Academy.
I didn't finish that one. I got a couple episodes in, and
the second season's better than the first.
I didn't get into the first season. I don't know. Maybe I just want. That's so much science fiction, I guess.
That's one of my biggest pet peeves when somebody recommends a show and they're like, the first season is really bad. You have to watch it to understand, but it's just know it's just not as good as the second.
Clay, you're not going to watch it anyway.
But as soon as the second season comes around, it's going to be perfect. And it's like, do you know how hard it is for me to commit to a first season?
Yeah, that's 10 hours of my life.
You already know you like the show now that you're saying that the first season is bad. What happens if I watch the whole first season and then I watch the second season and the second season is bad?
Did you ever watch Newsroom?
Yes, I think I was the one that was telling you needed to watch it.
That's my favorite series of all time.
Yeah, Newsroom's great.
My favorite series of all time.
You introduced him to Newsroom?
I don't remember.
It's very possible. It's very possible.
I need the X-Files theme song.
But Aaron Sorkin is a genius.
So after I found out he wrote West Wing, I started watching West Wing, and you can 100% see it. Oh yeah,
he wrote The Social Network too.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you can also see
Steve Jobs.
I did not realize, and I started doing some research after I watched. I've probably watched Newsroom 10 times.
Well, you have the episodes downloaded on your laptop.
It may or may not be legal. Anyway,
X-Files theme song.
We'll
anyway,
cut that out in editing.
We actually could put an X-Files sound in here.
That'd be fantastic.
But anyway, yeah, I started researching Aaron Sorkin a little bit more, like what he had done, and started watching some interviews, and I did not realize how dialogue heavy everything he does is. There's a
it's
pace.
A machine gun of dialogue.
Oh man! And if you don't pay attention, you're gonna miss something.
Yep.
And that's my biggest pet peeve is I'm watching something, especially with my wife, because it's useless to watch something with my wife.
What just happened?
No, it's.
Yeah, looks at the phone.
Oh, and I want to strangle her. I'm like, if you're gonna commit to my daughter is the greatest. My daughter is my daughter. There's no doubt. My oldest Tess. You turn something on, never blinks, never looks away. I'm like, that's my kid.
Oh, and here's my thing. So if you're in a movie theater and the credits start rolling, watch the credits. There's a lot of people that worked very, very hard to make that movie happen. If you're sitting on your couch and you're watching a series, watch the series. There's a lot of people that worked really hard to make that happen.
My goodness, man.
They didn't do it so that you could stare at Instagram, while you're doing it.
Well, that's my thing. It's like if something loses me or I'm uninterested in it, I just stop it. I'll just walk away, hard stop. But if I'm interested, I'm watching from 0, 0, 0, 0 to as soon as it's done. And I don't want you to talk to me. Yep. I don't want to pick up my phone. I don't even want to eat or drink. I want to focus because I enjoy it. I enjoy every aspect of it. And that's like Clay hasn't watched anything. I still don't understand it.
I bet Clay's a terrible person to watch movies with. I bet he talks. But he
won't. We've invited him to come watch movies, and
he
won't
probably
do it.
leaves the sound on as he's typing too, so it's click, 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 click.
He's that guy.
No.
Are you that guy?
No, my typing's not on. I've been texting and Instagramming this entire podcast. You didn't hear me.
He hasn't even he hasn't even been paying attention to the content that he is involved in.
Yeah, he's
I've been
creating.
texting and Instagram this entire podcast. I mean, what are you talking about?
What are you even doing here, Clay? What are you doing?
So Umbrella Academy, what else?
Let's see. I've been watching. I would say I've been watching more movies, but I can't name like 10 movies I've watched either. It's been a weird quarantine. It's been a weird quarantine.
I was about to say, during quarantine, I figured you would just crush some movies.
Let's see.
But your married life now, man. You just
We
got that
just-
old ball and chain. So you're
And we've got we just got a new house, and so that's been like an undertaking
oh yeah.
to get moved. We only moved 3 blocks, but I will never move ever again.
Don't say that. I've said that and had to move 2 times since I said it.
Caleb, whenever you say you're not going to do something,
Dude, I told him
some
that.
sort of
I told
circumstance
Chance,
happens, and we end up doing it.
I told Chance that story earlier.
Yep. I'm actually going to scroll through my movie list. We'll come back to it.
I
I'll tell
don't.
you a couple
Yeah,
things
I
I've
don't
done.
want anybody to call us with a endless budget, awesome location short film ever again.
And give us creative decision making.
Yeah.
I never want to do a Netflix docu-series. That sounds terrible. That would be the worst. Don't
Have
you
you-
think, Caleb?
How dare,
What about you, Clay? That would be horrific for all of us.
how dare us have a real budget?
Yeah. Ryer's new. Your favorite one lately has been what's the football series?
Last Chance U.
Last Chance U. Have you seen it?
Yep.
Really
Yeah, it's
well
really
done.
good.
Holy
Freaking
crap!
incredible.
It's
Yep.
really well done.
Filmed really well. Let's see.
I want to know their back end, the planning that goes into.
I keep trying to find back-end stuff for them and Deadliest Catch.
I can't. I've looked
And
for
it's
Last
like-
Chance U. I can't find it.
They
this
can't
is-
give that information away.
This is where, like, when you talk about there's a black hole of information.
Yeah,
And,
there
like,
it is.
When you started in this industry, there's a black hole of information, right? And so we're trying to help with that.
In our
And
own
I've-
unique way, yes.
And as we start to do productions that require more infrastructure, I've been like scouring the internet for solutions, and they do not exist.
Yeah, no,
Like,
I agree.
Where do people get this information?
I don't know. I think it's
I
got to be
don't
trial
know.
and error, or just coming from giant productions and understanding, because that's
Because like
a
just trying to-
logistical nightmare.
just trying to find a software where I could basically manage all of the assets that we have on the server.
Well, right now,
was
finding the people to be able to
ridiculous.
man something like that,
Yeah.
I don't know where I'd find the people, and what that would cost. What would be the budget for something like that? I wouldn't even want to know.
Yeah, I mean that's what I was doing at Sub 7. Like going out and you need a new server. Like, do you what brand are you gonna get? Like, how much speed do you need? That's like I spent like probably a year figuring out Sub 7 before we got the server there.
Yeah.
Like, and that thing trucked on good.
Do you
Yeah.
have a degree in this?
No, I've got a degree in rhetoric, in like speech writing and rhetoric.
Yeah.
When I got hired, I just told Mark I had a degree in communication studies. He didn't know it was in it was in creative writing.
Oh, that's funny. I didn't know that. I thought you had a communications degree.
No, it's not mass communications. It's rhetoric and speech.
Really?
writing.
What did you want to do? What was the original plan?
Communi-
Because obviously you veered from the plan.
Yeah, getting a communications degree was very easy.
Yeah.
So this is a weird thing. I was going to be an accounting and communications double major, and accounting got hard.
Yeah. I told you my communication story. Oh, yeah. Travis just saw your shirt finally.
I got you, bro.
So
Yep.
finish your
Yeah,
the degree.
And so accounting got hard, and communications was there, and I did my 4 years and got out.
So when you signed to do the rhetoric and speech writing, like what did you have a plan on something you wanted to do?
I knew I wanted to do film. I went to Furman. Furman didn't have that. I did do an internship on the Leatherheads movie with George Clooney. So,
Oh, really?
yeah, if you watch that movie, you will not even see me in the credits because that's how lowly of a peon I was.
You really had us going there in the first half, I'm not going to lie. See, there's that degree in rhetoric really
Right.
coming in handy.
That's where I primed your
Setting you up.
expectations and then just yanked the rug out from
Shattered
underneath
them.
you.
Well, honestly,
yeah.
you started priming that like
Way back.
15 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
You knew this was coming up.
No.
Because
did not.
you made sure that to tell people watch the credits. There's a lot of people that
Oh,
worked
yeah.
very hard on this.
that.
10 minutes later, here we are,
Yeah,
setting us up for
TV.
the 1-2.
So what'd you do on that? I didn't know any of this. I'm learning stuff about Chance.
So I was a production assistant intern in the office. And so
This was where?
This was in Greenville, South Carolina. They've built their soundstage for part of the movie in Greenville, South Carolina, and they filmed some exteriors at a school and stuff like that up there. And so, like, there's a scene where they're down in the coal mine. That was just, like, literally some puffed styrofoam, like, on a soundstage. The train was on a soundstage, and it was built on, like, air compressors. And so they'd rock the train set back and forth to give it like the illusion of movement, and then had lights set up down the windows, and they'd go in like a series so that it'd make you think that you were passing lights on the outside. So you got to see to see a lot of the the cool movie magic. But I didn't even take coffee to people. The fax machine spit out stuff. I ran copies of it and then took that to like the different departments that it was addressed to.
So nothing fun.
Nothing fun.
Just got to see some cool stuff.
Yeah, I got to see George Clooney one day.
Nice.
He popped in, then I was scared to look at him, so I looked away.
I am not worthy.
I was like, oh God, he's here. Like, turn my back.
I was scared.
Don't make eye contact.
Don't make eye contact. They can sense fear.
I don't think I've ever seen Leatherheads.
It did not do too well. I haven't seen it either.
Oh, really? You worked on the movie? Ever seen it?
I didn't. Like, nothing I did made it into it. Like, if I'd been in the background or something, that would have been like my Instagram picture for a long time.
So what year was this, in college?
This was in college. This would have been in 2007 or 2008.
That's awesome. God, that's so funny. Well, we've been talking for an hour and 7 minutes, so I guess we'll wrap this up, dude. Really appreciate you coming and hanging out, and still learning from you. Appreciate all that. But if you got any questions, Instagram at Redneck Tech Podcast, rednecktechpodcast@gmail.com. We still have some openings on the school. I think we have 7 confirmed coming to the class. We can probably do 3 to 5 more. So if you're interested in coming, send an email to rednecktechpodcast@gmail.com. All right, guys. Peace.